Hello, dear. It's Heather, and you're watching Save Today with Heather J. I am somebody who has spent her entire adult life living paycheck to paycheck and being one life event away from financial crisis. I have decided that that has to change. It cannot continue to go forward. I need to make some adjustments and rearrange my thinking and get control of my budget and my spending and try and get some, not just my old debt paid off, because that's huge and needs to be done, but I'd also like to get some savings set aside, and I'd have some large ticket items I would like to own. I would like to just have a little bit of breathing room in my budget and in my schedule. I have some very definite plans of things I'd like to be able to do in the future, and they can't happen if I continue in the path I'm headed. So I have created a budget for myself and a channel to share my journey with you. So if you are interested at all in watching some regular person struggle their way through this journey and try and get ahead, I invite you to join me. I know that I am not alone in some of my poor decision makings. I am not alone in my living paycheck to paycheck, and I am not alone in wanting to make some changes in that. So I know there are hundreds, if not thousands of you out there who are in a similar boat as me. And probably just like me, you feel a little bit isolated and alone, and a little bit of company would be nice. You know, we want to be able to share our journey and where we're at without bringing any kind of, I don't know, guilt or negative feelings to somebody. I want to be able to share the struggles and the challenges I'm going through without it seeming like I'm asking a coworker for money. You know, that's not what any of this is about at all. This is just a struggle. And we as human beings like to, misery loves company. We like to share our journey with others so that it doesn't feel so isolating and overwhelming. So anyway, that's me. That's who I am. That's what I'm doing. I invite whoever wants to join me on this journey to please come along and let's see where we go. I have already made great strides in just the 4 months I've been doing this as far as getting some of my debt paid off, but I am still really struggling with some of the poor decision making that got me in this situation in the first place, if that makes sense. So I'm not at any way here to tell you what to do. I'm not here to say do the things I've done there, look how great it is, because I'm not the leader of this. I am just somebody struggling to get through. Anyway, that's a whole lot of words just to say come and join me. Today's video is going to be my September paycheck number 1 setup video. For me, the first paycheck in September, I actually receive on the 25th of August. I get paid every other Friday, and my rent is due on the 1st. And so it is because of those two things that my months will fluctuate on here as far as when the 1st of September is not when my first paycheck starts. So my first paycheck will be from August 25th to September 7th. When I do my paycheck setups or my monthly setups, I take my hourly wage times my estimated hours times the amount of weeks in this particular pay period, and I take away 25%. So at the moment, that's $20.85 an hour times roughly 38 hours, take away 25, or times 2 weeks in this pay period, and then take away 25%. So for me, that's $1,188.45. I have been working very close to that 40-hour mark, but I won't ever schedule myself or estimate myself at 40 hours because there's always something that comes up. You show up a little bit late, lunch takes a little bit longer, you leave a little bit early. All of those things kind of wiggle the numbers a little bit. And I would much rather underestimate and have what I actually receive be just a tiny bit more than overestimate and have what I actually receive be just a tiny bit less. So that is why I'm at 38 hours. For my job, for my company, full time is anywhere from 32 to 48 hours, or 32 to 40 hours. And there have been times in the past where I've really been scheduled at 32 and 33 hours. Thankfully, that hasn't been for quite a while. And obviously, if that began to happen, that would change the adjustments here. But so for right now, I've been very blessed that I'm working at that. I can pretty much count on 38 hours a week. The other line I have for my income is other. Most of the time, this other is going to be zero. I don't have a second job. I no longer receive child support, haven't for quite a long time. I don't have any investments, annuities, rental properties, anything where I would be receiving regular income. But this other line is in here as a just in case. If I receive taxes or birthday money or some random thing comes up, that's in there for me to mark that. To this month, or this paycheck, I am showing $350 there. In August, I did take $350 out of my income, remove it from my ability to pay my bills, and we used that to get the second vehicle road legal, because in July, we had gotten that second vehicle repaired so that it was now able to be driven. Now we needed to make it legal to do so. So we needed to get the registration brought back up to date, and we needed to get the insurance brought back up to date. That had sat immobile for so long that both of those had lapsed. So rather than waiting 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get that done and get that taken care of, and in the meantime continue sharing one car and doing the bus, we opted to push that to the front of the line. Now, when my son receives his first check after his surgery, family leave or medical leave, he will be giving me that $350 back, which will be at the beginning of the month of September. So for my income, my estimated income for this pay period is $1,538.45. The next thing I go over in these estimates are my fixed expenses. And again, these aren't fixed in that they never change. Some of my things are consistent month after month after month, and some of them do fluctuate. So my rent stays the same no matter what, but my utilities fluctuate. Both of those types of things are in my fixed expenses because they are things that I'm required to pay, and they're not something that will fluctuate based on my choices. So the first thing I have here is my rent. Again, that's due on the 1st, and that's $853. $850 for rent and $3 for a service fee to have that automatically withdrawn. I have a phone bill for $243.87. That is my August bill that was put into a payment arrangement to come out in September when I was getting this $350. That is one of the bills that was sacrificed in August to move the vehicle registration to the top of the line. So that will be being paid. That's $243.87. Now that is 2 phone lines, 1 tablet, the internet, insurance on 2 of those devices, one of the phones and one of the tablets, and a late fee. So that will all be coming out being paid when I receive that $350. Then the other thing that's in here is my utilities. I thought when I finished out August that I had caught up on all of the utilities that I had to kind of waterfall, being paid late, paid late, paid late. It turns out I had missed one. I had somehow managed to miss my payment in June when I was doing my catch up. So that is $153.31. That is a monthly bill in June. My utilities were $131.31, a $20 service fee, and a $2 money order fee is what that is. And so that means my fixed expenses for this first paycheck in September are $1,250.18. The next thing I go over with these estimates is my flexible spending. For me, my flexible spending is my groceries, my dining out, transportation, art, and miscellaneous. All of those things, I have a greater control on how much or how little I spend in my in each paycheck as far as those go. As far as groceries go, obviously I have to eat, but I have a choice on which place I go and how much I buy. So in my estimate, I have given myself $140 a week for a total of $280 this pay period. For my dining out, I have estimated $0 in this pay period. Dining out is my number one greatest challenge where I shoot myself in the foot very frequently. When I put this $0 as my estimate, I'm well aware that it's likely that this will end up having some sort of spending in there, and I likely will be somehow red in this category. But I don't have a whole lot of extra money to just be like, oh, I'm gonna go spend $50 this week. I don't have that right now. Anything I spend in this dining out is going to have an impact somewhere else. There just isn't any extra at this point in time. The next thing I have in flexible is my transportation. I estimate $40 a week for a total of $80 this pay period. And I estimate one full fill up in my car, and I use $3.79 a gallon as my estimate, and my car holds just a little over 10 gallons. So $40 a week should get me one full fill up. So $80 this pay period. And then I have art. Art is something that I choose to spend a lot of money on. I make frequent purchases on that. It is something that's very important to me, and I don't go buy for the thrill of the hunt, or for, you know, a shopping addiction kind of thing where I get some sort of endorphin rush on it. I do get an endorphin rush. I do get some motivation by being in those craft stores, and they really motivate me and get me very excited about some of the other things I'm going on in the background. But it's not the spending dollars that gives me that. It's just being surrounded by so much amazing creativity and the possibilities. But in order for me to do the projects and the things that I'm working on and build my art and build my skills, I do have to make purchases. Those are very important to me. I don't have the extra funds for that this month. And the project I'm focused on this month, I chose because I knew, or I believe, I won't need to go purchase anything for this. I believe I have everything I'm going to need, and I'm going to not have to make any purchases. So my art estimate is $0 this pay period. If something comes up and it turns out there was something I had overlooked, I will go purchase something, and that will go in the negative. But I don't think that that's likely. And because I don't think that that's likely, I have given myself $0 for this estimate. And then the last thing in my flexible spending is miscellaneous. Miscellaneous covers two things for me. The first thing is some of the one-off decisions that I can choose to make. There is a refill store, what I call a hippie store, that I really like to go to. I can get homemade soaps. I can use their refill bar to get shampoo and conditioner, hand soap, laundry soap. You have local crafters that make weave rugs, and just all sorts of, it's exactly the kind of place I like to go. But I'm not buying all of my groceries there, and I only go buy the things I buy there when I have the extra to warrant that, and I just don't have that this month to put anything in there. The other thing miscellaneous covers for me are some of those things that come in and have to be taken care of immediately that I didn't know at the beginning of the month. In the month of June, I believe it might have been May, I was having to go to Staples and get some tax stuff taken care of. I had to go in and copy some things and fax some things and get some things emailed to get my taxes taken care of. And that was something I wasn't aware of in the beginning of the month when I set up my estimates, but it was something that needed to be dealt with immediately and could not be put off until the next month when I could budget that in. So those two areas are what my miscellaneous covers for me. So that is set at zero. I don't have the extra money for me to go choose to buy some things. And if there is something that's going to come up, I don't know what it is right now. Something does, it'll have to be read. That's fine. I'll deal with it at the end when I have to deal with it. So my estimated flexible spending for this pay period is just $360. So when we carry all those totals down, what does that look like I'm going to end up my pay period with? My income is estimated to be $1,538.45. My fixed expenses is estimated to be $1,250.18. And my flexible spending is estimated to be $360, which means I'm setting up paycheck number 2 at an estimate of negative $71.73. So what does that mean? I don't have $71.73 sitting in my bank account waiting to be a buffer to cover this. Up to this point, I have been very lucky that the wages I receive are a little bit more than the wages I'm estimating I'm receiving. So hopefully that will happen and that will cover the $71.73. If that's not what happens, I have a couple of choices. One being that my groceries and transportation will be impacted, and the other being that when I pay my utilities will be impacted, or how much of my utilities get paid will be impacted. Those are kind of the options I have to make this negative 71.73 work. And so we'll have to see when I finish, when I come back and close out paycheck number 1, what it was that I ended up having to do. Obviously, pushing off or making adjustments to rent is not an option, and this phone bill is not an option. Adjusting that is set up to be automatically withdrawn, and it's just not an option for me to change that or adjust that at this point. So in this pay period, it would either be adjusting this catch up on this utilities that I missed way back in June, or it will be adjusting what is happening here in my flexible spending, or a combination of the two. So that is where things look as I close out, or as I set up paycheck number 1. And it is because of these negative things that I find budgeting to be very hard and discouraging. I very much want to have all of these bills paid. I very much want to be all caught up. I want to be able to get groceries and not worry about how much I'm spending. I want to be able to drive and not worry about, do I have enough money to fill up the gas tank and get myself to work? I'm not quite there yet. Some of this phone, in fact, all of this phone and this utility is me having to rob Peter to pay Paul, having to push one thing off one month, which pushes it off to the next month, which pushes it off to the next month. This is something that I didn't really feel like I had an option in when it started, and now I'm having to deal with the impact of that now. Let's see, that started at the end of June. So we have June, July, and August. So that's been 2.5 months that this has been carrying over and carrying over and carrying over. If I can get this phone bill and this utilities bill paid here in this first pay period, I will finally be 100% caught up with all of the adjusting I have had to do to get myself through getting the car repaired, prepaying for the surgery, and getting my possessions shipped to me from through my U-Haul. If you saw that video, you know that those 3 things had an impact of about $6,000 or $7,000 in that 5-week period. It was a significant amount of money that happened to need to be necessary all at the same time. It was terribly frightening. I managed to get through that, and I'm still paying for that. I'm still trying to recover from that. But I think this is going to be the last month where that situation continues to waterfall forward. So that, as we set up paycheck number 1, is where I stand. Not fabulous, but moving forward. So we'll see when we come back in 2 weeks as we close this out. We'll see what happens there. So that is where I'm at for the end of my budget portion of today's video. I have chosen to bring my craft, my art into my channel because it is something that brings me joy. It is something that's positive, that is forward progression. And I want to tie that positive forward progression into what for me can be a very negative struggle with doing my budget. So I am working on a project this month. Again, I mentioned this month's project should not need me to pay extra money on that. When I left you yesterday, I had just had all of the fabrics ironed, and today I've got all of that cut out for us. I just want to show you really quick, remind you for those of you who maybe didn't see, this is the project I'm working on this month. This pattern has been bundled with a whole bunch of Halloween fabric sitting in my stash for quite some time. These projects I'm working on with you guys at the back of my channel have all been projects that have been waiting for me to get to them. So I'm using this channel and this budget as a way to make them a priority. This one, I had not done any of the work to start this project. This is the first project so far that I will be working from beginning to end in front of the channel instead of bringing something that's halfway done or 3/4 done and then finishing it with you on screen. So this is the project I'm working on, and these are the fabrics I cut out and chose to do for this. Right now, these fabrics are just this center part. All of these black pieces are parts of the hat. This purple here is what I'm going to be doing for the hat band, and then I will later be cutting out what goes around there. And then I have this wide variety of oranges to give myself the depth and movement that we see here with the rest of this. So that's all I've been able to do. Yesterday I had these fabrics ironed. Today I have them cut up, but nothing's been sewn together yet. And I don't have any of these extra outer borders done yet. Those will come after I get these sewn. So there hasn't been a whole lot of forward progress on this. So one of the things I really wanted to bring up this time is, you know how when we're in high school and we're learning all of these math in particular, and we're like, I'm never going to use that. When am I ever going to use that? I, with this project, have used some of what I learned in algebra. I may not be great at budgeting. I may make a lot of poor decisions and I may impact myself, but I use algebra frequently in my everyday life. What do I mean by that? What on earth are you talking about, Heather? Let me show you. This pattern wants me to use, does it tell me in here? I should have been more prepared for this. It's just so fun that I can use that. This pattern wants me to use 5-inch squares and sew them all together. This pattern is written for 5-inch squares. It's also written for this to be finished out at, where did it tell me? 48 inches by 50 inches. This is supposed to be a wall hanging, and that's 4 feet long by 4 feet wide. I don't need anything that big hanging on any of my walls. I don't know that I have wall space big enough for that, and I certainly don't want this to be that big in my house. The thing that I'm using, this special tool I'm using, which, let me pull this out here. I don't know if you can see that tool with those lines that go kind of cattywampus through there. They go through the center, but they aren't centered on that tool. Where can you see that better when I put that on the black there? So the way this pattern, this tool works is you sew all of these squares together, just basic patchwork, square by square, and then you take this tool and you line this weirdness up with where those are cut or sewn together, and you cut around each of those. This tool, this particular one, they make them in several different sizes, but this size says to use 3.5-inch squares, not 5-inch squares. So I needed to do some math to get this 5 inches down into 3.5 inches. Obviously I could just cut these squares, whatever, but I needed that math to know how long this border is supposed to be and how long that orange is supposed to be around the edges there. So how did I use algebra for that? I'm going to show you. Let me bring my book out so I have a hard surface here, and I'm going to bring this. We learn how to use words to make math problems, and we learn how to read math problems as words. So what I did is I did 3.5 inches is what percent of 5? So this is my algebra equation. So 3.5 becomes an equal sign. What percent becomes the x? Of becomes times multiplication. I probably should choose this as y instead of x. 5. So I just took a sentence, a question, a problem I'm trying to figure out, and I just turned it into an algebraic equation. 3.5 equals y times 5. So then I divide 5 by both sides. So then 3.5 divided by 5 equals y. And when you do that on a calculator, you take 3.5 and you divide it by 5, you get 0.70. So now I could take this dimension for this green one, this orange fabric. I think it's going to tell me here. It wanted me to cut this orange fabric into 3-inch strips. Well, now I know I need to times that 3-inch by 0.7 to get the thickness of that strip. And my green border needs to be 2 inches, and I need to take that 2 inches and times it times 0.7. I don't remember what the math was on that 3 inches, but this 2 inches comes out to 1.4 inches is my 70%. So I just think that that's fun to use algebra in our everyday life. We can use this equation to find out how much money we're going to save. I've used this before to find out how much money people have saved. We can take our words and we can turn it into a math equation, and we can get the answers we need. So I might not be able to go an entire week without spending on dining out, but I can use algebra in my everyday life, and I think that's fun. Anyway, that is it for me. That's my budget. That's my craft project. That's where we're at. I probably am not going to see you tomorrow. I think I will see you the day after that. And I think that that will be my week 1 spending check-in. Let's see what I did with my groceries, dining out, transportation, art, and miscellaneous in my first week of September. Alrighty, my friends, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing today, please have fun. Bye-bye now.